friends, and welcome back to another episode of Sanctuary, the podcast. I believe we are on episode 6, and today we have, again, a very, very special guest, because everybody that I bring on the podcast is honestly so special and like dear to my heart, and I believe that they all are like have such an impact not only in my life but like I think in lives of others, and they all have like impactful stories that I think really can have an impact on those of you listening. So today I want to welcome Vanessa.
Hi.
You might know her as Vavavoom.
Vavavoom Artistry.
Yes. So she has done my makeup for, what have you done my makeup for? My grand opening, my Sanctuary studio photos. You've done a lot of my brides.
Mm-hmm.
You've done Jocelyn's makeup. You've done my makeup now, I think, for like everything. Because ever since the first time you did my makeup, I'm obsessed. Nobody can make my face like this.
I mean, you have a gorgeous face to begin with, so.
Thank you. But you are also so freaking talented at what you do. So, like, you have this just like a special touch. And then not only that, every time I've sat in your chair, we've had like the most incredible conversations.
Oh, I know. We go there. we dive
Which
deep.
is why we're here today, because
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, this needs to be a podcast. I'm like, I need to have Vanessa on because we literally are so aligned. I feel like
that too.
I feel like we're in like, I don't know, we just have these deep conversations that like,
yeah,
you get
since
it.
the beginning
like we get
too.
it, yeah, like you get it, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah.
Oh, and I'm so excited to be here. I mean, I'm so honored, and I love you. I love your work, and
Thank you. Oh, I also took Vanessa's photos last year.
Yes, she did.
We're almost a year since we took that.
From our anniversary. So, I mean, we couldn't have chosen anyone better because we love you so much in your work, and you're like beyond talented.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm so honored to be here and so excited.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about like, obviously you're a makeup artist, but like tell us like everything that you do, how you got into what you do, like give us a little bit of like a recap of like your life and your business.
So probably started when I was like a really young girl. I always was involved in performing and dancing. And I always found this like passion and love for hair. I was like obsessed with doing hair. To a point that I got in trouble when I was in school, like in first grade, and my teacher's like, you can't be doing your hair. And they had like a conference with my parents.
They're
like,
God.
Yeah. And they were just like, oh, she's disrupting the class. And I was always a straight A student, but it was like, I was obsessed with doing my hair, redoing my hair, doing my friend's hair. But
so you just start doing kids' hair in like class?
Kind of. Braids. I mean, anything I can get my hands on, like a head of hair. I was just like a happy camper. But yeah, it kind of stemmed from when I was a young girl, performing. I used to dance. So I think I just always surrounded myself with being creative, music, dancing, performance, and that includes hair and makeup. So I just feel like that was something that always just like lived inside of me. And I kind of grew up also with just a lot of vibrancy and like music in the home. Like my parents, they met dancing salsa. You know, my parents are Cuban immigrants, and I just feel like from a young age, there was always a lot of like vibrancy, you know, and I feel like with
like art, you know, like expression. I feel like that's all of that is very expressive of self.
Absolutely. And like the dancing portion, I mean, till this day, my parents are 40 years in and they go dancing salsa almost every weekend. And
that's so sweet.
So I feel like there is just the inception of that came from my upbringing. And it was just something that I love so much. And I started really tapping into it as I got a little older. Like even in high school, I was part of the dance team, and I used to do everyone's hair on the team. And with that led into like doing makeup. And I think it was just a matter of like, wow, I really love this. And I was kind of obsessed with it. So I think that's where I kind of realized like, oh, I actually can, when you're obsessed with something, right, you can't stop thinking about it. And you just want to like keep on learning and developing and growing from it. And so, yeah. And you know, when you're early on in life, in high school, what direction do you have? You have the direction from your family, mainly your family, right?
Yeah.
And so going into graduating high school, the next step was to go into college. So what do I do in college? I get involved in school. I start studying. I got my bachelor's in psychology. And, but I always did the hair and makeup on the side.
So why did you go to school? Was it because of like expectations of culture and like?
It was an expectation. It was something that it was the quote unquote next step.
Yeah. Like
right?
what you should do.
What you should do. And I feel like a lot in life, I don't want to say that we're groomed, but in a way.
I talked about that in one episode where I was like, I feel like we don't follow our dreams or pursue our dreams because of what society tells us we should do or be, or even parents, honestly. Like a lot of times we go down a certain path because of what's expected of us rather than like honoring what's true to us.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like when we're young, especially in high school, you know, and I feel back then social media didn't exist when I graduated high school.
I know we were lucky.
Right. We were lucky. I feel like we also had that opportunity to develop something in terms of like, you know, what is it that we wanted, not as opposed to what society wanted, but that was driven by what our parents thought we should do, you know, or whatever is going to make our parents proud.
Yes.
So I feel like up until that point in my life, I was doing everything what I needed to do to make my parents proud. And this is the trajectory of my life. And this is what I need to be doing. And I remember my mom saying, you should get into healthcare. It has, you know, you get good benefits. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to college to find a good job, to have benefits. Like forget about anything creative or following my passion. I'm like, those are hobbies. Yeah. And I feel like back then, a good 15 years ago, I'm close to 20 years at this point.
It's okay. You still look,
Thank you.
Still look like it was 15 years ago.
So I just feel like then it was just like, that's what you do. You don't go and chase a hobby because that's not what's going to pay the bills. You know, it's what's the next step in life? You go to college, you get a degree, you get a good job. Then you find someone to marry, and then you go have a family. And in the midst of that, you buy a house and you create a little white picket fence life. Right?
That's the dream.
The dream.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like once I graduated college, studied psychology, and then I jumped into working for nonprofits. And that's always something where working for nonprofits, for me, it felt more, not because of the money. I think it was more of like feeding a little bit more of my soul. I felt some sense of, you know, like a passion. I felt like I was getting something out of it. I was making a difference in the world. I worked for an organization called Best Buddies, which works with individuals who have special, you know, have disabilities, and they promote inclusivity and all those things. So I was, in a nutshell, I was a job coach. I would help them get jobs. And then after that, I worked for American Cancer Society. But again, the nonprofit world doesn't really pay that great. But I didn't do it for the money. I did it because there was a passion behind it. And I knew I was helping people. And I think that's always just been like the backbone of who I am. Like I love people.
You are such a giver.
I'm a giver.
You are. That is your heart and soul for sure.
Oh my God, yeah. And sometimes later on in life, I realize I'm like, oh, that can like, you know, hit me in the face a little bit when I give too much. Yeah. And I'm like, this is my role in life, is to give. Forget about Vanessa's just a carcass. I'm gonna give all of me to everybody and everything. And I feel like that also kind of stems from like my upbringing. It's just like, what else can you do for everyone else?
Yes. Right. Yeah. That's how I was raised too. It's like everything is about everybody else, you know, always trying to please everyone else, always trying to be good enough, be, you know, feel enough always, rather than always putting yourself to the side.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like, we're raised to like, that is your purpose. Like, what are you doing for your family? What are you doing for your community?
For others, yeah.
Yeah, even like in church, what can you do for church? Like give. So I'm just like, well, that's my purpose, is to give. So, and all the while I was working in these nonprofits, I always did like hair and makeup on the side because it fed me, right? It was just like, I didn't even charge. I mean, I did it for fun. And so little by little, people started referring me, and I'm like, I don't charge. I only do.
This is for
fun. Like, this is like for fun. It's like singing in the shower. Like, it's like, you know, and then people started referring me and I'm like, no, I don't charge and I don't do people I don't know. And I remember it was a sorority sister that, she kind of pushed me. She's like, oh my God, please, I raved about you and how good you are. Like, now they're expecting if you can possibly see them. And I'm like, oh my God, how much do I even charge? Like, I couldn't even, there was nothing existed back then, any kind of resources. So I feel like I really had to kind of create that, because now if you're coming into this industry now, oh my God.
There's so much resources, like with the internet now, like it's not the same as what it, you can watch a TikTok and learn how to do something.
You can watch a TikTok, you can watch a YouTube, you can get a course. I mean, back then it just like, it was non-existent.
Yeah.
So I mean, I had to turn to my mom, like, Mom, how much do I charge? They're like, I don't know. I mean, what do you feel like you should charge? And so I was charging like pennies, you know, like $50 for hair and makeup.
Oh
and
my God.
For me, that was just like, how can I even charge for something that I didn't go to school for?
Yeah.
And it kind of stemmed from there. And little by little, I feel like I just like started believing a little bit more in myself. I'm like, okay, I'm getting comfortable. I think I can do this. And in 2014, I said goodbye to the corporate world. I took a leap of faith, went on my own. It was the scariest thing. But there was this little voice inside of me that said, I almost didn't do it. And I heard this voice, and it was so distinct, and it said, you're going to be fine. So I don't know whose voice that was. We all can assume.
Your inner self.
My inner self. You know, I always say, I'm like, it was God. It was just like, but I audibly heard the voice.
The extension of God that is within you.
Yes, exactly. And so I just felt at peace with my decision. And I said, okay, I let go of the corporate world, the safety of a salary, the safety of, you know, I feel like a lot of us growing up, that's what we wanted, because that's what was the example that was set.
Mm-hmm. Work hard, have stability in life.
Yep. Because as an artist, there's no what kind of stability? But I feel like that was also 20 years ago. You didn't have that exposure to like people that were actually successful in industries like the one, you know, even like in photography. Or I mean, I feel like if you had a success story, you were probably like a celebrity makeup artist or a celebrity photographer. Somebody well known. Like, I thought like, oh my God, I didn't go to cosmetology school. Like, how can I even charge for something?
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of it all, and I'm here to tell the story almost 9 years later.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It just goes to show you that, like, if you really want to do something and your heart is like so set on something, you can do it. You just have to trust yourself, follow your intuition, and really just like go all in. That's kind of what I did with my business too, like similar, where I was just like, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I wasn't even doing it for money at first. Right. I was just like a love and a passion that I had because I picked up a camera when I was 14. So like ever since then, I like just loved photos, and I never thought it could be a serious thing, because for me, it was like, this is an art, this is a hobby, this is a side gig, you know, like could never be real.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I was like, wait, but I actually really love this. And like, I'm telling people stories, and this does matter, and this can be a job. So.
Yeah, and I think it's that doubt at the beginning of like, because I feel like when people choose a path in life, it's because they can kind of see the end result. And I feel like when you take a risk in life and doing like what we did, you don't see it, and that's even scarier.
And even still, I think like 9 years in too, like similar to you, where it's like, even still, I don't see the end result. Like, I see it, but I don't. Like, our work kind of is like,
it's ever evolving. I don't think there's an end. It's not an end. It's a journey of anything.
Yes.
You know, and it sees so many highs. It sees a lot of lows. And it just like, it's constantly evolving, and it's not even like, it's I think it just becomes richer and richer and richer, like the experience itself, you know? So I don't think there's like an end result. I think it's just, it's the journey. It's like the path that we take, and what we take along with it. That's the result.
Yes. Yes, all the lessons through it, all of the highs and lows, like you said.
Like I said, it's not right. It's not a mistake. It's a lesson.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have a conversation with you today is because you are like so amazing at like, I think at least, I mean, obviously we all like, people think I'm the most confident person. Like, I think you're extremely confident and like just so rooted in who you are. But obviously we all have baggage and things that we deal with personally. But I wanted to talk to you a lot about like how we can own who we are. Like how we can own our power. Because like you mentioned how you, for a lot of your life, you know, you thought you had to go a certain path and you had to do things for others. And like, you still have that in you, obviously, because that's your core. That is who you are. So like, how have you transitioned into like being more about like loving yourself, honoring yourself, and putting yourself first versus like everyone else?
I mean,
what's that journey been?
The journey has been
journeying.
Yeah, the journey is journeying. But I feel like it stemmed from a young age in realizing who I was, and also physically, you know, I've always been a bigger girl. It's just like that's who I've been, right? And I feel from a young age, I understood that, and that it didn't mean anything bad. It was just like I knew that I was worth more than what I physically like look like. And I always felt like I needed to squeeze all the juice that life had to offer. Right. And
but where do you think that came from?
I mean, I feel like that my family had a lot to do with that. You know, my family had a lot to do with that. I feel like they're very just like happy people. They're always thinking of, you know, life is amazing. Even if in the roughest times, like
that's amazing.
You have to choose that happiness. And so I feel like everything in life is a choice. Everything in life is a choice.
Yeah.
And like, I think we've spoken about this before. It's like, you actually have choices. You can choose one path or another path. You don't know where it's going to take you, but it's just like when you choose to go in that direction, I feel like it just starts to open so many more things. And I feel like from a young age, that was just like really deep rooted. You know, I felt so much love in my home, and like my parents fortunately are still together. They've been married for 40 years. And I just like, I saw what that created, and they create a really loving, safe place. And obviously the journey with like my weight has been since I was a little girl. I think that was just, you know, that's also another little struggle I've always dealt with. But I realized as I got older, I wanted to be happy, and I wanted to have people around me feel happy or make them happy. And I feel like the only way I had to do that was just kind of put aside any kind of doubts, any self-negative like things that we kind of tell ourselves. I had to hush that out in order to actually like enjoy life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of stemmed probably in transitioning from like high school to college. You know, when we're younger, we see all these like beautiful models. I mean, the examples that we had in life were just like the Victoria's Secret models.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's who you have to be. Yeah.
That's who you have to be. And I'm like, but that's not who I am. And I'm like, well, I'm going to create my own who I have to be. And I think it kind of like...
That's amazing though, to like work past that, because I feel like that's where a lot of us as humans struggle, thinking that we have to fit that mold in order to feel accepted and enough. And that's why we can never be ourselves.
And I think it's like, it's the unshackling of it all, of like just releasing that. And I think when we're young, we're not at that point where we have completely developed that part of our brain, I feel, where we can really say like, this is who I am and this is not who I have to be.
Yes.
That takes time. I mean, I am 30 something and
30 something.
Yeah, I'm 30 something. And
that's like me now.
Yeah.
After like I would tell everybody, I'm like, turning 30 was fun. But now like turn 31, I'm like, I'm 31.
No, the 30s are the best. Wait till you get to 32.
They are.
Yeah, 32, 33.
They have been so far.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to what we're talking about. Like, you're past the like trying to please others. You're past the like, you just are deeply rooted in who you are.
Yeah.
At least if you've put in the work.
And I'm more
been putting
comfortable Yeah, and you're
Yes.
more comfortable in saying no, and you know exactly what you want, and your yeses are even stronger.
Yeah.
So yeah, the
Yes.
30s, I mean,
Yes.
you thrive.
Yes.
It's a general consensus.
Yeah.
Like you thrive in your 30s. I felt that.
Yeah, I have been feeling that. Sorry.
I love
Keep going.
that. So I feel like from a young age, it kind of stemmed from there. And I'm like, well, I want to have fun. I want to be surrounded by really great friends. And I just felt like I needed to feel loved and accepted by other people. So it needs to start within me.
Yes.
I mean, I used to make fun of myself in high school, like call myself a cow. I mean, it was horrendous because I didn't want anyone else to make fun of me. So I used to beat myself
Wow.
to the punchline. It was, I mean, I'm my own therapist. I have debunked so much of myself over the years. And I remember my friends used to get mad at me and they're like, why would you do that? Like, and I had a friend tell me, like, my best friend, he would get mad at me. Like, I'm not going to be your friend if you're going to continue that, because that's not cool.
Yeah.
Like putting myself down. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I gotta switch the channel. Like,
Yeah.
let me change it. So I think like when I came into college, also the crowd, and when you're in college, I feel like there's a lot of self-discovery and a lot of evolving. And I feel like I probably became a little bit more aware of that and into my own and a little bit more confident. I'm like, people are going to like me for me.
Yeah.
People want to date me. They're going to date me. They're going to think they want to be my friend. They'll be my friend. And I feel like I didn't want to miss any opportunity. I had major FOMO in every sense of the word. So I'm like, I want to go out. I want to experience this. I want to travel here. And I said yes to everything. And I just I kind of fell into that. And I think that's where also it led me to where my business is now, where I'm just like, I have to find that confidence in saying I can do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it, because if not, it just you get beat to the ground if you don't.
Well, what most of us don't realize, what I didn't realize for a long time, was that like my outer world is an extension of my inner world. It's a reflection of my inner world. So again, you were already like beating yourself up and like beating yourself down so that others wouldn't do it, but you're already attracting that because that's who you are embodying. So like you're believing that that's who you and what you were. So I'm sure like you took on that.
Oh, I took on that like 100%.
Yeah. Rather than like taking on like, no, I am beautiful. This is my body. I am accepting of, like I'm sure there's such a difference with who you are now, accepting yourself versus like who you told yourself that you were.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and my family was always extremely supportive, like always lifting me up, always praising me, so I feel like I put that on myself. Mm-hmm. That didn't come from anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, if I'm going to make fun of myself, that means no one else can make fun. It's either me or no one. I'm not going to get hurt by anyone.
Yeah.
So hence the walls went up.
I
had to protect myself.
Living that way, yeah.
Living that way, I protected myself so much. And I'm like, no one's going to hurt me. And not that I experienced hurt, but I think probably when I was younger, I had a few little bullies of like, saying not nice things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to let anyone do that to me ever again. So I'm going to beat them to the punchline. Yeah. And I protected myself from that point on. And I feel like, I had to, later on in life is when I realized, I'm like, oh my God, what did you do? Like, why'd you do that? But you don't realize what you're doing when you're younger until
later on.
Yeah. No, your adult self looks at your like young adolescent self, and you're like, you didn't have to do that, but it's okay. It's part of your story.
Yes. That's why I'm so accepting of like everything, because people will be like, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And it's like, thank you, but I'm not. Because without all of our like life experiences and lessons, like, would I choose to go through it again? No, absolutely not. Right. But I am grateful, and I'm sure you can be grateful for all of the lessons that you've had, throughout your life, because they've brought you to who you are and what you are now. And like,
yeah, we were meant to live those. I feel like that life is already kind of preset for you. Yeah. Like you're actually meant to live that. And I didn't realize that till now, especially in the last like 3 to 4 years, where I'm just like, oh my God, all of that was supposed to happen.
Well, I think when you change your perspective to like this knowing that things are happening for you rather than to you, it changes everything. And then you become a lot more accepting of life, because then you're just like, no, this experience is for me. As much as it sucks, because some of us go through really, really hard things that like I don't wish upon anyone, you know, but like sometimes we have to go through those experiences to learn a certain lesson, or to, you know, deepen our relationship with self and others, or whatever it is. We're all here to build and grow and evolve. I
Live
think
the human experience.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, whatever it's meant to be. That's why I told you earlier, I'm like, what's meant to be yours is meant to be yours. And if it's not, that's okay. That's okay too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just all part of our journey. And I feel like when you fully bring that in and fully be in it and live in it, and also in a sense of gratitude, because I realized that living in gratitude is just like, thank you for letting me live this life, for letting me experience these moments, to go through the hardships I had to go through, because I learned those lessons, and to experience the highs and everything in between. And it's just like, it makes life so much more rich.
Yes.
Like I don't know, in a weird way, I emotionally feel rich, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does 1,000%. Because I feel that, because ever since I decided to honor myself and honor my emotions, because, you know, like growing up, I didn't really know too much about emotions, and I didn't know that like it was okay to cry. I didn't know it was okay to like feel all the feelings, because, you know, we're taught like if you cry too much, you're a crybaby. Or you're too emotional, you know, like I remember growing up, like some of my like family members would tell me, you're so emotional. And then actually throughout high school, because like I used to cut myself and stuff like that, and I was like super emotional, like really. So I took on that role of like, I remember one of my aunts started calling me emo, and I took that on as my identity. So like I would tell people like, oh yeah, I'm emo. Like that was like my nickname. And I actually took on that like identity, and like for me, that's how I found myself, or I thought I did, you know? So like I took it on, and I was like emo for years.
Well, because someone on the outside of you labeled you as that.
Yeah, because I was emotional, but it was also because, you know, I was young. I didn't know how to navigate my feelings and emotions, versus today, I'm like, my emotions are my power. My emotions are my guides. My emotions lead me to the most beautiful places in order to be present and experience all of life. So like there's a difference, you know, like, and I'm super grateful for all of that, because it's brought me to where I am now, where I'm like, you know what, if I want to feel sad, I'm going to feel sad. If I want to feel really happy, I'm going to dwell in this happiness. I'm going to sit in this happiness and immerse myself in it, because I deserve it, you know, and it's part of the human experience. And a lot of times we block ourselves, like you said, in order to guard ourselves from like feelings, because we think it's safer there, but it's really not.
It's really not. Yeah, you're not fully experience what you're meant to experience. And I tell friends, I tell family, I'm like, if you feel this way, just feel it. Be in it. It's okay. You're angry. Feel that. Like if you're sad, feel that. You know, if you feel proud, like just be in it, because actually that's what life is.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like people just count life as like all the moments and all the milestones and like, you know, the physical attainment of things. And I'm like, no, life is how you feel and how we evolve from that, and like what we take from it. Because at the end of the day, when we're no longer here, what do we take with us? We can't take the car that we bought. We can't take the house that we, you know, it's just like we take what we actually feel, and, you know, our soul, right?
Yeah.
And it's what the soul feels and what feeds the soul. And I feel I'm a true believer that eventually our souls, they continue to go on.
I believe that too.
I always feel I'm like, I'm this soul living in this, you know, cute big girl body. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is your vessel. Yeah. Yeah. I think too often too, we like live, like kind of what you were saying, how we live for milestones rather than living in the moment. Like, you know, we're looking forward too much to these milestones rather than like celebrating the little things. Like, I don't know, I woke up and I'm healthier, I'm in a good mood, or I don't know, anything little, like just the fact that you were alive and breathing. That's why I think I've actually recently kind of stopped meditating, which I'm like, I need to get back into it. But like, I remember when I would meditate every day, and like, I would just have so much gratitude like daily. And like, I would be so, because I was able to be more present with myself, I would be able to be like, experience so much gratitude for the littlest things. And then like, you're like in bliss, and then like, you're just, I don't know, enjoying life and like fully being present to life.
I'm there with you. Yeah, I feel like throughout the years, I've been practicing more gratitude, like in the mornings, just like being so grateful just for even the smallest things, you know what I mean? And just understanding and realizing like life is happening for me, not to me. And I'm just like so grateful. You know, I could have like 2 pennies in my account, and I'm like, you know what? I'm grateful that I have those 2 pennies in my account. Or I'm just like, thank you for allowing me. I wake up every day. Thank you for allowing me to wake up this morning, to do what I love, to be surrounded by the people that I love and love me back. And when you start to live in gratitude, it just like, I don't know, I think it just filled up my cup even more. And it doesn't matter what else happens that day. You know, I'm just like, I'm so fully fulfilled that.
Well, because you ground yourself in that gratitude. Yeah. So it's like, again, it goes back to, I am choosing to ground myself in this gratitude, and whatever happens, I'm not going to allow it to steer me away from this core, this center that I am aligned with.
Again, a choice.
Yes.
Like you said, you're choosing.
Yes. And of course, it's a practice. It is easier said than done.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody is ever just always in bliss, because, you know, we're humans. We're allowed to feel all sorts of emotions and things. But I think that an important thing is knowing that you can always go back to that core, to that alignment, to that, you know, that feeling of gratitude.
Always go back there. And I remember hearing a podcast from Tony Robbins, and he was saying how it's actually harder for people to choose happiness than to live in, you know, it's easier for people to like live angry or live in a sense of misery. It's actually more comforting for some people to have that, that really like negative, that drowning feeling of life, and like they kind of see,
because it's so easy to find the wrongs with everything. You know, it's easier to be negative. It really is, because I can wake up and be like, oh, I hate how I look. I hate how my hair is today. I hate how, I don't know. That person cut me off driving. I hate this food. I have no money for food. My bank account isn't high. Like literally, we can think of things on things like.
And that's the energy. Yeah. Like that's not the energy that we want to give off. And I feel like you start your day with the energy that you choose to have that day. You know, like I had a really good friend tell me recently, she's like, I feel like you romanticize everything about your life. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, even like if you're making a salad and you're like cutting a cucumber, you're like truly in that moment enjoying. I'm like, yeah, you're right. She goes, even if you make a coffee, like I just make it so profoundly like amazing, delicious. I'm so grateful. I love it. And like, and that's really what it's all about. Like you choose to have that energy. And I feel like
finding the joy in the little things, you know, because I'm like that too. Like, I don't know, for me, like the same thing, like making a coffee, I want it to look pretty and aesthetic, and everybody bothers me. They're like, you're so extra. Like, but I'm like, no, but you don't get it. Like this is like my energy, you know, like it's an extension of my energy. And like, if I'm not making my outer world look as beautiful as I want my inner world to be, then like it doesn't match, you know, like they need to go hand in hand. I think that goes back down to like the way you present yourself to the world every day, like dressing up, doing your hair, doing your makeup. Like, don't get me wrong, you don't have to do full glam every day and like look crazy, but like I do think that the way you present yourself to the world really is an extension of like your inner world, and it just like changes your mood. It like makes your energy just that much more vibrant.
I agree. Yeah, but I'm a big energy believer, and we've spoken about this too. Like I work off of energy. I mean, and both of what we do is creative, and anything creative, you know, that's all energy forming.
Oh yeah.
And it's just I thrive off of it, probably more so than anything else. And I feel like what you create out of that is what, you know, what comes out of it, it's just like, it's magical. But it's like the energy that you put into it, into anything in life. So yeah, I'm a big energy manifestation. Like I am putting all of this out into the world. And I realize, like, you put in those negative thoughts, or you create like what you don't have, right? That's also a negative thing. Like, I don't have this, I don't have that. I wish for this, I wish for that. And I'm like, that's what you're throwing out into the universe. You know, why don't you say, like, I am so grateful I have this, or I will have it.
Yeah. Or, I mean, that is really great too. I do that too. I'm like, I will have that. But then also it's like retraining your mind to say, like, okay, I want that. How can I get there? You know, and like creating a direction, creating a path to aligning yourself with the things that you want.
Yep.
So it's like it's a mindset. Like it's just changing your mind.
It's when I don't get to read often. I think I prefer listening to podcasts more often, but there's a podcast I was listening to called Unfuck Your Brain.
Okay. I might have heard that one. Sounds kind of
and
familiar.
it's about your mindset and how you creating mind work about, you know, how you see and how you perceive things. And it's basically about how you move forward and what you want in life, and how you just shift the smallest little thing in your brain. And it's like and it kind of clicked. I didn't realize like how much of that is your mindset. The minute you change that, I'm like, a light bulb just went in my head, and I'm like, oh my God. And that just trickled into so many things, into like people pleasing, into, you know, having FOMO, like, what am I missing out? Why do I feel this way? And you start to dissect everything about you, where you're just like, oh my God, my brain consumes everything that I do, and but I have control over it. But you don't think you do.
Yeah.
But you do.
Yeah.
So I think that's just like one of those things now in my 30-somethings where I realize, in my 30-somethings where I realize that I'm like, no, I'm actually pretty powerful in like what you choose and how you choose it, and how you move forward in life, and like what you want out of it. And yeah, it's just, life is really magical after making that switch.
Yeah. And the most beautiful thing is that we can all have it. It's just choosing to align ourselves in with that space. You know, I think it all begins with, at least for me, it began with becoming self-aware and recognizing like my thought patterns, recognizing like my choices, recognizing that like, wait, in this moment I can choose. You know, just like having that self-awareness changes everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, it's I mean, I can talk days and days and days about like, you know, how we create and what we create. And I always say, I'm like, you know what, also there's also very like really special people in this universe that I feel have the capacity or have evolved into learning how to tap into that, because some people actually don't.
Yeah.
They never get the opportunity to get there.
I have so many moments where I'm like, I'm just so grateful that I am able to experience this life. I mean, for me, it didn't come at an easy cost, because I've been through so much in life, but like, I am very, very grateful to like experience the things I've experienced, and like have the self-awareness that I have. And like, I talked about like in one of my podcasts how like what it was for me that started my whole like life change, and it was ayahuasca, which like that just like really like
transformative.
Oh my God, changed my life.
Yeah, I feel like and it starts with the brain, right?
That's really what it was. Me becoming self-aware. That's why I say, for like, I truly believe everyone gets to this path, can get to this path, like get to this like destination through any path. For me, it was through ayahuasca, and like I remember just like, for me, the beginning point was that self-awareness, where it's like, whoa, I am in charge of this vessel. I am in charge of like my destiny. You know, like I have choices. I can choose what I want to think, not what I want to think, but like what I want to like hold on to, or like what I want to like believe, and like just knowing that you have the power to choose.
And what a breakthrough. I think people feel trapped in their brain, and they're like, this is how I am. and this is what it is, and this is how it has to be. And I'm like, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It doesn't. And I'm like, you have the power. Like, you have, it could be so much more than what you think life is. You know what I mean? And I feel like people also hold on to the things that have happened to them in their past. They become what that is to them. You know what I mean? Like, or if, you know, they were abused, they're like, they are the abused, and they live their life feeling that way.
You take that on.
You take that
like
on.
Your personality, your identity. Yeah.
And you have the power to literally release yourself from that. But I think it just depends on the person, and some people, maybe it might take longer than others to get to that point.
Well, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and it's a lot of patience, because I think people actually lose patience just trying to get there, and they want it from one day to the next. Like, we're not.
Well, because also a lot of it too is we think we have to change ourselves, but it's not changing yourself. I think it's aligning with your true self and listening to your true self rather than listening to like your thoughts and your like, because your mind will tell you the craziest things. It's listening to that gut feeling, that intuition, listening to your heart and following that, you know, your soul.
Well, I think people don't do that because they're afraid of what that intuition is telling them. Mm-hmm. I think people are scared of that inner voice.
Yeah.
And it is scary. It can, and I feel getting to that core of who we are, people are scared to get there, because then that means that they might get hurt. That means that they don't know what the unknown, you know, that's like when people create those boundaries within themselves, they can't get to that inner part of them because they've built all of this. They built a little like fortress around them, and they can't get there.
Yeah. And
until you break those walls and you finally are with the core of who you are, that's it. Life starts to turn in this other direction that you're just like, oh my God, everything can be mine, and everything is beautiful. And I don't know, it's just like life feels rich. Life starts to feel rich.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. I literally ever since then, I mean, I've had a whole transformative, like, past 4 years, which you know about, but
which I want to talk about.
Yes, we'll get into that.
I want to talk about like relationships, and like, because I feel like this all ties into that, where it's like following that inner voice and like doing the things that make you happy.
Yeah.
No matter what people say.
And I mean, my story is, it's significant to me, but you know, I realize as time passes, it happens, you know, a lot of people have a similar story to me, where in my mid-20s, you know, I've always dated men. In my mid-20s, I was in a serious relationship where I was even a stepmom.
So heard about that.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I just felt like, this is my path. This is what was chosen for me. I'm going to go along with it. And this is what it is, right? And so I just thought, okay, and I wasn't even working for myself at the time. I remember I'm like, this is, I guess, what life is meant to be. Mm-hmm. And once that relationship ended, I was single for like 4 years when I hit my 30s. So that's why I like loved my 30s. I started finding myself. I started traveling. I started meeting the most amazing people. And I realized I started meeting people outside of my circles, because growing up in South Florida, you can get into your little mini, you know, circle cliques, and
there's a lot of that.
Miami's big, but it's a small little town, right? And it can suck you in. And I realized that there was so much more when I started traveling, started making friends in other parts of the world, and just like my mind started opening up to a lot more things. And I feel like from forever, I feel like I've always been able to connect with people when they allow me to connect with them, and also if it feels safe.
Yes.
So I'm like,
I can relate wholeheartedly to that.
I always say, right? I'm like, I am a glass window. Like, you can see right through me. You can see right through me unless you break me. And then those pieces, what happens when you break glass? Those pieces cut. So I'm just like, I trust you. I trust you because you trust me. Yeah, that's like my little Scorpio little tagline, that I always say because I'm like, yeah, I'm like a looking glass. Like you can see right through me and clear. And it is, you get what you see.
Yeah.
But just don't break that trust. Don't break that because those pieces cut. And I don't go backwards.
I'm literally very similar.
Yeah. And so I feel like in life, when I realized that I felt safe with this person, I'm going to be vulnerable with you and I'm going to go there. So I feel like just connecting with people was something very normal to me. Like, it can be anybody, men, women. It just, if I felt like I can connect with them on a deeper level, it just like, it fulfilled me. And I think that's who I am at my core, just like fully connected. I think that's why we've connected so well because we've gone there. Because sometimes, and I felt safe with you and I know you felt safe with me. And it's just like that energy and that space that like we created, we're like, let's lay it all on the table because we can. And so I just, for those years that I was like single and traveling, I was meeting amazing people and just connecting on a deeper level that I feel like maybe people in my life, I couldn't go there because maybe a sense of judgment or, it's just like how we're programmed growing up and maybe Hispanic families too. And in South Florida, there's just like this mindset that, you're not going to go there with someone because they might use it for something else. They might judge you. They might talk shit about you, so you just don't feel safe. But, so I feel like within that, I just started developing this like inner self of wanting to have like deeper, purposeful relationships with people. And, as we get older, our circles go smaller and smaller and smaller. So, a lot smaller. You're like, okay, can't trust you. Okay.
It's like, okay, it's really small now.
And you know what? And that's okay. A lot of times people in life, there's a season for them.
Yeah.
And they were meant to be there. It's like with any ex, or an ex-friend, or it could even be a family member you don't talk to anymore. Like there is a season for them and they were actually meant to be in your life at that point in your life.
1000%. Yeah.
That's it. It's not like I regret that. Like, no, yeah. I actually don't regret any of that because they built who I am today and they built my story. And I'm so grateful for the experience that I had with them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, at the end of the day, you have to leave them exactly where they were because sometimes people want to revisit it and then it brings up too much hurt and pain.
Well, I think that's because we don't accept it. And we don't like heal from things. We just kind of try to like brush things off and move on rather than like actually facing it and facing like the emotion, the pain, whatever it is, and then healing from it to the point where it's like, this is a part of my story. I accept it and I move on.
Yeah.
That's it.
And sometimes I was going to piggyback earlier. Sometimes it's also culturally like, we both come from Hispanic families and just like talking about your feelings is a no-no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's like even now I feel like it's so refreshing to hear people like, going to therapy and just like talking about that. And it's very, you release so much, but just like growing up, and generational kind of trauma, you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's all brushed under the rug. And that's with all sorts of relationships in your life. We don't talk about it. We don't mention it. Like, you move on like if
you
nothing
just move
happened.
On. Yeah. But you're actually still holding on to so much baggage. Yeah.
And I'm like, you can release all of that. Like, let it go.
Yeah. But you have to deal with it and face it, which is harder than, or at least it seems as it's harder.
Exactly. But, and so as I got older, I remember feeling like I knew I was ready to find someone, to find love. And I remember writing a list of things that I wanted in a partner. It was like a list of like 40 things. And I remember how I wanted to feel in this relationship, down to like, I even pictured them too, like physically what I wanted them to look like and how I wanted to be, how I wanted to live this life with this person. And I remember I wrote an entire list. I dated it with time and I put a tiny little prayer and I folded it up and forgot about it, snuck it somewhere, but it's like I threw that into the universe. And so a couple of years after that, when I was living with a roommate, my roommate's friend started coming around, and which the roommate's friend is a female. She started coming around, and you know, and mind you, this was someone that I knew from college, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't stand her. Like, why is she friends with her, and why is she coming into my like space? Jesus, okay, fine. And so as I start to get to know her, I'm like, oh my God, she's kind of like me. Like, our birthdays are a few days apart. Wow, she's not as bad as I thought she was. And time progresses, and again, we start talking, we strike up a friendship, and we start to connect on a deeper level. And I didn't think much of it because, again, I've already connected with people along the way. So I'm like, I connect with people easily. Like, if you allow me in, I'm going to come in, and the same, goes for me. And so as time progresses, and mind you, she's dated women and men in the past. And at the moment, she had been dating women. So little by little, I'm like, I'm starting to feel some type of way. Like I'm connecting in a way. I'm like, I don't want to give her false hope. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to give her any false hopes. And then next thing you know, I'm just like, I start to feel something for her, something a little bit more that I was not. It just like took me by surprise. And she felt the same way. And I'm like, what is this? Like, and I started, I had to block my feelings for a little bit because I'm like, this is not who I am. Like, I've never been attracted to women. I never felt like I was gay. Like, it just like, that wasn't what my life was. And so I'm like, this is not who I am. Like, why am I feeling this way? What is happening to me? And little by little, as time passed, I realized, I'm like, I think I'm falling in love with this person. And I'm like, this is so crazy. And so I remember going through a big journey with just, understanding myself. I mean, if there's any time to test who you are, that was the biggest test of my life, was realizing like, hey, this is who you thought you were. Guess again. When you think you had it all figured out. And I realized, like, when I started dating Chelsea, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, how can this is not the life that I thought for myself. Like, I was going to get married and have kids in a white picket fence again. Like,
the dream.
Dream. And then I'm like, and then I remember that list that I made. And I'm like, on my list, it says, he was meant to have green eyes with like a beard and like, which Chelsea has green eyes. So as time passes, I start to
beard with a green eyes.
No beard. And then I realized I actually manifested this list out of the person that I wanted. She had everything on that list, minus the beard and the obvious things. And I just realized, I'm like, I don't think I can live life without this person. Like, I don't want to live life without this person. And I'm like, how is this going to affect the rest of my life? I can't. And then I almost thought, I'm like, I can't do this because of my family. I can't do this because of my friends. And I'm like, wait, am I short selling myself now? Am I like robbing myself from a possible amazing life because for the sake of others? I'm like, wait a minute, Vanessa.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I truly started putting myself first at my young years of like 34, or I was like 33 turning 34.
Okay.
And so I remember when I finally had to tell my friends, it was like a whole spectacle because, I've never dated women, and it was just like one of these things like, are you sure? Is this a phase? And I'm like, I think I'm a little too old for phases. And I think at this point in my life, I really understood who I was, and just like meeting Chelsea was a major curveball in my life, but she opened up this entire new life and door for me that I'm like, wait a minute, you're right. Like, we can have it all. Because I thought, how am I going to have kids? I'm like, you can still have kids. You can still have that happy relationship. And even telling my parents, that was like huge. Like, what do I say I am? Like,
how was that?
Oh my God. That was actually during the pandemic. So I think my mom my parents probably suspected it. But my family had already met Chelsea and they loved her so much. So I wasn't like, hey, here's someone new. It's just like they loved her so much. And she's such a special person that I think I told her a week before my niece was born. And I'm like, our family's about to experience a huge milestone in our life that I need to tell her before this happens. And I remember telling my mom, and she was in tears. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not telling you bad news. I'm just telling you, I'm like, I fell in love with her. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you know, I just felt like, how do I explain that I don't feel? She's like, but have you always felt like you were into women? I'm like, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you that I fell in love with this person. And my dad got it. My dad is a little bit more of a hippie. So like, I think he understood that I fell for the person. And in hindsight, I realized, then I understood myself even more. I'm like, I love the person. I love the soul, right? More than what the exterior is and how that person makes me feel whole. And like, you know, after that, I just think like, if I go to try to find someone, anyone better than her, like, I don't think I can, man or female.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like it's just like, I'm so fulfilled in life, like in everything I do, everything across the board, that like, I feel like we can just like, we can rule nations, rule worlds, like the world can crumble, but it's like, I have her and I just feel like home. I feel safe. I feel like I can breathe. And it's so hard to find that in someone, you know, because it's like people are always seeking something in someone else that you should actually seek in yourself.
Yeah.
And I recognized that before I started dating her. I knew who, and I was content, happy with just being me alone by myself. And I started living this happy life. And I realized I didn't really need anyone. I had myself and I had everyone around me that loved me and cared for me. And I'm like, you know what, if this is what my life is, I'm so happy. And I think that's like when you find yourself at that core, is when the things that you really want in life start to come at you at a fast pace. And you're like, this life, I couldn't have expected it for myself, but it's like even better than what I anticipated.
Yeah. I can relate to that because, but
you went through something similar too.
Literally the same thing, except of that feeling of like, okay, just being accepting of your life. I remember I was very accepting, like in the season that I was in, like in my marriage. And I was like, this is what it is. I love myself. I basically felt very alone for years and years, but I was like accepting of that. I was like, I'm happy with myself and I'm accepting this, you know, like this is what my life is. Until I realized it's like, no, it doesn't have to be this. Like, but I think that was the core of like who I am today. And like, that's why I think it's so important to choose like a partner wisely, because they'll bring out the best in you. You know, they'll help you to be and feel like a better person.
And it's so liberating, because I know you fully understand like what I feel, because you went through a similar, like our stories are different yet similar in that sense. And it's like when you find that person, that partner, it's truly a partnership.
Yeah.
Like in life and with everything, you know, because we're two women. So it's like, we're the roles, you know, how do you choose what role is what? And so I feel like,
how do you do that? I just wonder that.
Yeah,
Serious
you know
question.
what? I feel like the roles, it's kind of like we just like assume the roles in general. Like,
is it just like naturally?
It's like natural, and it's. I think that's why it works. We are this true partnership where
I see that with you guys. Though.
We understand each other so much, and it's just like she has my back, I have hers, 100,000%, and I've never felt so safe, so stable in my life.
Yeah.
You know, because my job is, it's not one to be, you know.
It's not your safety in your home.
It's not the safety. I mean, 9 years in now, you know, I can forecast like my business, and I feel like, you know, but when you've been working for yourself for a while, you can you build stability over time. Yeah. But in relationships and at home, it's just like, the world can be rocking, and I just know like that is my safe haven. And you know, when I think that's like the best way to describe it, it's like you find a true partnership, you know, what I lack, she picks up, and vice versa. And it's just so seamless. And nothing, I think along the way, it's just like we kind of assumed our own, you know, like I know I cook and she will do the dishes. It's just assume she's the one doing laundry at home, or, you know, it's just like certain things, even like packing, like, you know, I feel like I am fully supported no matter what. And like, she's there, and it's exactly what I needed in life. So I think I recognize that, like, it's not about that she was a woman. And I'm like, because that was a whole nother evolution. It was just like, how am I being supported?
Yeah.
Do I
it's
feel
just the role
peace?
that she fits, you know, like
Yes.
you said, the partnership,
And I told this to a friend recently. I'm like, you know, and it felt easy. I think that was like the biggest thing, which I think we've spoken about it too. That
it's like weird. It's like, is this normal?
Yeah.
I have so many moments where I'm like, this is like too seamless and too easy.
But that's when it's right.
Yeah.
That's when
I've learned that.
And I had to realize that. I'm like, it just feels so easy. Like I kind of feel guilty sometimes in just knowing that, like, I'm living like my best life. I am living at the most, it's like the most peace I've ever had in my life. Most stability.
You shouldn't feel guilty, because it's the choices that you've made that led you to this, the hard choices.
You're right. I think part of my people pleasing is that I feel what you feel, right?
No, I get that feeling, yeah, where it's like, I feel bad because I'm experiencing life so beautifully when others aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that's their experience.
Correct.
This is ours. You have to own it, because this is the life that you have and that you've chosen. You know, like, you've made hard decisions to be where you are.
Yeah.
And everyone else can do the same. I've had to come to that, like, understanding too, because like so many times I'll be like, oh, I can't show that I'm too happy. Like, what are people going to think of me? You know, like, I remember when I posted my boyfriend at first, like, I was so happy, and like, I felt bad that I felt so happy. And
you broke the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, have you seen you guys?
Thank you. But like, I remember like, it was like one of the happiest times of my life, like finding my person, my soulmate. But it was also one of the hardest, because it's like, I felt so guilty for feeling so happy. But it's like, this is my story. This is what I've chosen. So like, I need to own it, and I'm happy. So like, happiness comes and goes. So like, it's important for me and all of us to choose it moment to moment.
But how crazy to feel guilty. I think it's just like, you know, if you're happy, you shouldn't be showing that you're happy.
Yeah.
Or that you found, like, because then what, you're gloating. And I'm like, I go, let me just downplay it a little bit. Like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, no, I'm literally like screaming at the top of a mountain. Like, I'm just like beyond myself, because I'm so happy. And I'm like, I know that there's people around me that don't feel the same way. So I'm like, let me let them feel that. I don't want to put that on them. Yeah. I don't want to make them feel bad. And I think that all ties into, like, you know, the empath in me too, which
because you feel other people's energies. I feel
other people's energies, and I'm just like,
yeah.
You hurt, I hurt. I can feel you hurting, and I can hurt that same hurt. But
it's not your, you know, it's like not, that's what I had to learn. It's like, it's not mine to carry. I can only carry my own. Like, if I'm here trying to carry everyone's loads, then like, I won't be living. You know, you won't live your life.
And I think that's so rooted into like our upbringings. It's like, we have to care for everybody else, right? And when you realize, sometimes people realize too late in life, like, why didn't I care for myself first?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like that idea of like, you know, you find your true happiness first, so then you can find and you can exude that to other people. But like, if you're not happy, that baggage is going to continue into whatever relationship you do, whatever you do in life. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, you have to start within you and have that happy relationship with you. And then everything else kind of trickles into that. But yeah, it's just like one of those things like, and I shun it down, and I'm like, we shouldn't be downplaying our happiness or our successes.
We should be, if anything, you should be your biggest cheerleader, because I believe, like, if you're not your biggest cheerleader, how do you expect others to be?
Absolutely.
You know, like, you are the example of how you want to be treated. You are the example of, you know, teaching others that they can be where you are.
Absolutely.
You know, that's why, like, I post so many things, like, about, like, my success and, like, my joy and all of that, just to remind others, like, you can have the same thing.
And I think sometimes we're nervous to post that because it's just like, are we going to get the backlash of like, oh, look at them. Oh, they're like,
yeah, which you will. Probably.
And I'm like,
you probably will.
fine. Right. So I feel like, okay, I mean, that's you, boo. Like,
yeah.
And I think I've realized that too. Now I'm like, your thoughts, that's how you choose to feel.
Yes.
I can't, that's not me. I can't control what your thoughts and your emotions. I know what I'm feeling and I'm in control of that and like the direction of my life. Because when you consume yourself with like what other people, that's another huge thing. It's like,
oh yeah, I did
what
that.
were other people
yeah.
thinking? And I'm just like, and I read a book. I don't know, have you ever read the book Untamed?
Yes, I love Untamed. Oh, that was also very life-changing for me.
So life-changing for me too. And I feel like
that's my cheetah tattoo.
Yes,
it's
the cheetah
Untamed.
tattoo.
Yes,
yes.
And then I became a cougar. It's so funny. It's literally so funny.
Oh my God. You're so right.
Yeah, they're like same family. I mean, not the same thing, but
yeah.
But same family.
Yeah, but it's like that unleashing. After I actually, that book is pretty life-changing. And I just
it really is.
That copy of that book, I'm like, you need to read it.
Such a good book.
Everybody. And it really, after I read that book is where I actually got not the willpower, but just like, I actually got the courage to go and tell my family about Chelsea and just be like, I have to live my life. Like, I'm living my life for everyone else. Yeah. When is it going to be my turn? And I realized after reading that book, it was such an aha moment. And that's when everything changed. Everything changed. And I learned how to start setting boundaries. And I realized what I was doing, what I was doing for others, how it was eating me alive. You know, I always felt like my purpose in life was to be there for everybody. I ran at the drop of a hat for anybody who needed me because I felt like that's what I'm on this earth for. Yeah. I'm on this earth.
That's where you probably felt validated.
100%.
Because you didn't have enough validation within yourself.
Right. Hence the making fun of myself. I mean, I was putting myself down from day one. Yeah. You know, and I think that's just like, and when I cracked that code, I'm just like, oh my God, what have I been doing? Like, I used to put my business in the back burner. I used to put just anything for me, my health, everything was like, yeah, girl, take a back seat, take a number because it's not you yet. Yeah. It's everyone else. Everyone else around me, getting married, everyone else around me, having kids, my family needing whatever. Like, I'm like, I am there because this is what I'm here on this earth for, is for everyone else, not you, until I read that book. And it's so life-changing. Like, I think everyone.
It's such a good book.
It's such a good book. But your tattoo, I love that. That makes no sense. Oh my God.
It's so funny. Life is hilarious.
Right? Yes.
It really is.
Yeah. But I think that was like the huge turning point in my life where I learned how to set boundaries, which I didn't know how. Yeah,
it's not something we're taught, you know?
Exactly.
We have to learn that for ourselves. I mean, now there's a lot more resources on like mental health and like how to live a healthier life. But like, I feel like growing up, you don't know what that means or what that entails or like how to go about setting boundaries or.
No, and like I was a yes girl. I said yes to everything, even if it like sacrificed something for me. I was yes, whatever you need, yes. Yeah. And then I found the power of no. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I can do that. I can't say no. I can't say no. And Chelsea actually is she's also been such a turning point in my life because she made me realize so many things. She's like, so what happens if you say no? And I'm like, I will literally crumble at the seams. You know, it's like people need me. People need me. They're like, people will live. Like,
they will figure it out.
They will figure it out.
Just like you figure things out, everybody else can.
And I'm like, that's impossible. Like, their whole existence is because I am there and they need me and I'm the one who can be there for them. And they're like, no, you need to be there for yourself. I'm like, no. And then, the rest is history after that. And I feel like it's just so many things. My business has evolved even from that point on. How I see life, how to approach certain things in life and relationships. And I mean, we're just ever changing, ever evolving. And I think that's the beauty of it too.
Yeah.
Like change is good. Change is good. Evolving is good. If you stay the same, like what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? And I just feel like that's the beauty of life. It's
never the same. Every day is a new day.
Every day is a new day, and it's like how it's all perspective. It's how you look at it and how you create. It's like I want to be sucking all the juice out of life and out of this like beautiful journey that whatever happens, that's how it's meant to happen. Like we were talking about timing earlier, how things in life we want it to be like now.
We have specific deadlines and goals and like, timing for everything.
Who created that?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
Only like we literally create, or it's like kind of, set from our families or whatever, just like, this is how it's supposed to be. I'm like, but who said that? What happens if we don't get there? Then what happens? And then we're just like, I think that's where like a lot of pressures come in. People start to get like anxious about certain things in life, why things aren't happening.
Yeah.
And it's just like sometimes in life,
too specific. Yeah.
It's
we just have such, I had a whole podcast about this, about like, there's the pressures of like having to reach like certain goals by a certain time. And like, even myself, honestly, like now that I'm like in my 30s, like I feel the pressure of like, crap, my next thing is to have kids. So it's like, but then I have to remind myself and like knowing that like, I need to take that pressure off of myself and knowing that like it's going to happen in the perfect right timing when it's supposed to.
It's
rather than like a certain age, like, because I've had this thing in my head, this little bug. I see it.
I'm like, he wants to say a little something too. But timing is everything. And I feel like that's when you have to trust. You have to trust the universe. You have to trust the journey of your life. And sometimes they don't come. I mean, in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would be married to a woman. Like I would have laughed in your face 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Like it just like that wouldn't have made sense. And now I can't imagine my life without her. And like having like this new life and going on this new journey of like creating a family. And just like, I have to understand that what's meant for us will be for us. We're like searching for a house. The housing market is like really tough, but like I see our house, and sometimes it's probably not out yet, right? It's not ready for us. The same thing with like a baby. When it's ready for you, that baby is meant to be yours at that moment, in that time. It's the same thing with like when you travel or certain trips or your studio. Look at the journey that took you to get here. When you think it's going to open by this, and so much more has to happen. But the timing, I mean, it's like divine timing.
I wholeheartedly believe in that. Yep.
And you find, it's like, I feel like you have to just find peace in knowing that.
Yeah.
And once you find that and you accept that, that's it. Like, let life be life and live it.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I was going to say. You can be fully present.
Be fully present, like then you can enjoy making your aesthetically cute coffees.
Yes, because you're letting go of everything.
Yes.
And being happy in the little moments.
Yeah.
Because you're not so fixated on everything else.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, this was so much fun.
Oh my God.
I'm so happy I got to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
I cannot wait to have you on in the future.
Yes.
Hopefully when you have like new life updates and we can talk about all the new experiences.
Yeah, and your new life updates too.
We shall see.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Love you so, so much. I hope that your story can impact others. Let others know how they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, Vavavoom Artistry. And yeah, babaloomartistry.com is our website. And we're here for all your beauty needs. And if you want to chit chat,
Vanessa is the best.
Yeah, I can talk to the wall at this point. But yeah, I'm an open book. So I love to connect with people and network with people. And yeah, that's it. We're in the people business. So, you know.
And you're genuine about it, which is one of the things I love.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you again.
Absolutely.
Love you so much.
Love you.
Until next time.